And it's a case of you start off working for someone else and they're exchanging time for money. Then you go from there to freelancer. And if you take the typical journey that most of us have, this is where you go. And then the next step is freelancer. Now you're trading your time for money directly. You have productized your time and you are getting a lot more for it because you're also assuming the risk. Because that's how everything works in business. It's just risk management, essentially. But then you hit a threshold, like you are still trading your time for money, even though you have a lot more control over everything and you're getting a lot more for your time because you now keep all the profit margins in between. And then the hardest step, at least of what I think, is going from there to being a business owner where you own the systems that operate with other people in them that make you money.
You're listening to Brainwork Framework, a business and marketing podcast brought to you by focus-biz.com.
Welcome back to another episode. With us today is Andy Roberts, the founder of Kraken Media, how he was able to build a UK-based video production company entirely from scratch. So excited to have him on. Andy, how you doing today?
Excellent. Off to a fantastic start.
It is perfect. Andy, tell us about your journey. What were you doing that kind of led you into what you're doing today?
Mate, straight into it. Okay. It's been a long one. The TLDR is I've always been into performance. I was into drama a lot at school. I did photography at school as well. And I've always had that creative vibe in me. And I came out of school, didn't have very good grades. I was one of those kids that couldn't focus on anything. And after working at a few jobs, as you do, I just found myself looking at it and going, why can't I be the guy up there making all the money? Like that makes sense. I'd rather be up there. And so I started analyzing it and trying to figure out I need to start a business. So it's a normal thing. You come out of school, they're like, oh, you did theatre. That's nice. Well, you got to go get a real job now, haven't you? Off you go. Go on. Let's go destroy that soul of yours. And I did the real job thing and kept looking and I got into audiobooks. I went through a slew of businesses. The motto I have is when I heard the story that 9 out of 10 businesses fail in their first year, I need to start 10 businesses and then I'll have one successful one. And I took that literally. Turns out it's actually more than 10 attempts because you have a lot of lessons to learn. Later on, one of the lessons I learned is when you look at the stats for second businesses, it's almost the inverse. Once you've learned how to start one business, you've learned all the lessons you need to learn typically. And the success rate for second businesses is like 9 out of 10 second businesses succeed. There's this barrier for entry. But for me, I just went through a slew of businesses. And then one day I was listening to audiobooks. I listened to loads of audiobooks because I was working in a warehouse at the time. I can invest in myself and I can utilize this time. And I was very arrogantly, very cocky. How hard can this be? I love reading. It's the perfect job. I'll go and do that. Anyway, that was a nightmare. I attempted to record an audiobook. It was as bad as you can imagine. And that led me to start learning audio engineering. And then I was like, okay, now I sound like someone that's in a hostage situation. So I got to fix that. I started working on the performance aspect. And then eventually I started producing okay-ish audiobooks. And from there I got into voice acting and voiceover and that sort of thing. And I built a little business doing that. I built a voiceover business that was just about enough for me to buy a house during COVID as the absolute industry got kneecapped. We had loads of people trying the same thing. We got really saturated because everyone was at home for COVID. And just after I got into the industry, everyone else was like, that's a great idea. I'm going to do that. I'm like, no, leave me alone. And then AI came in and just slaughtered the industry. And rather than trying that, I did what I always do. I adapted and I'd been looking at the camera in the corner for a while. I really want to get into photography again. I want to make it more than a hobby. I want to make a business out of this. I want to fuse business and passion. I really want to make this work. And then one day a client, I'd been messing around with a few different things, saw one of the things I did and went, hey, we're paying you to voice our YouTube channel. How much to do it with a camera? Oh, yeah, sure. We can do that. And I started hosting YouTube channels and later down the line, here we are. Now we make video content for some big brands. And what we do is we bridge the gap between the creative and the businesses. Because a lot of businesses, they need the creative, but they need it in their lingo because they don't understand. They need sort of helping in that. That's where we position ourselves. And now I help other creative freelancers learn how to do that as well and have conversations with businesses so that they can sell their creative services to businesses at fair rates. And that's the long and short of it. I mean, I can go through all of the failed businesses if you want, but we'll be here for a really long time.
No, it is a fantastic journey and quite similar to mine and many others where we try the corporate life. That's just not for us. We see opportunities and we just take that risk. And through all the obstacles, all the failures, those are the lessons that we learn along the way. And specifically for you, After trying those failed businesses, what were those lessons that you finally learned where things started to click, where you started getting clients and revenue and an actual sustainable business model?
It never ends. It's still going on. I had one business. Here you go. Here's a fun story for you. One of my first business ideas was the idea of the repair hustle. And I got good at fixing stuff. I grew up very poor. And so if I wanted anything, I had to fix it, make it, or do it myself. And it's a very good skill to learn. And I could do two things. I could fix motorcycles and I could fix laptops. That's the two things I learned because I wanted a laptop, and the only way I could get one was by getting bits of one and then assembling it until you learn a lot doing it that way. And one day I came up with an idea, and me and my mate started buying mopeds like 125s and 50ccs, the sort of things that teenagers buy. And what we did was we bought them and we fixed them. Quite often we bought non-runners, but we really focused down on what we thought was low-hanging fruit, which is MOT failures. MOT being the roadworthy safetyness inspection. So if you drive a vehicle on a UK road, it has to have an MOT, which is like safety inspection. And it's really easy to fail that, but quite often the fixes are quite easy if you know how. And we bought MOT fails, fixed them, put a new MOT on it, had them inspected, and then sold them as working, ready to go things. It's like, okay, this is brilliant. And we got really good at that until one day we ran out of mopeds. We literally ran out of mopeds. Our supply has disappeared. Well, mopeds are worth a couple $100. Cars are worth a couple $100 more than that. Why don't we suck it up, hire a trailer for the day, and go and try and do the same thing with a car? And we found a really good car, and we went and picked it up, and we brought it home, and then we realized we had no idea how to fix it. And then after several attempts at trying to fix this damn car, we were like, that's it. Our entire budget is in this car. All of our money. We're dead lost now. We can't fix it. We can't even make it run. It's like, no wonder the previous person gave up on it. And after we bought some parts for the car, I realized, hang on a minute. Hang on. These parts are really expensive. And I started looking at it and pricing up the car in parts. Wait a minute. This car's worth way more in parts than it is as a whole thing. Just take it apart and sell the bits, and then we can put them on eBay. And we built this whole system. We took all the bits off the car, and I'm like, smart, I'll batch it. So we took the bits off the car, we photographed them. I had the nice little booth set up. We just brought in one part, photographed it, brought in the next one, in, photo turn, photo turn, straight into a bag with the part number written on it, or the SKU. We have an internal SKU system. And that went really well. We got about 10 grand's worth of inventory off of every car. It's a lot of work because we had to do each one. We only had, each item was one of one. And even if we had two cars with the same parts, or the same car had different parts, we still had to do it as one of one because there's slight variations in condition and stuff. And that was a nightmare. But it was loads of fun up until my very loving and supporting wife one day was like, look, the house has turned into an absolute oil trap. Could you please stop? And I was like, yeah, fair enough.
I could just imagine your wife opening the cupboard and there's like a muffler sitting there, or like some spare car parts just labeled.
Dishwasher. I opened the dishwasher. Why is there car parts in the dishwasher again? Shit.
That story was incredible because I think it showcases, one, the struggle and a lot of the lessons that you can learn from it. You had a model that was going great until your business relied on another piece that was not able to come through anymore. You had to pivot and find new opportunities. Once you tried an opportunity that seemed to go good, that was almost a money pit. And you said, how do I salvage this situation? You say, usually the sum is greater than the whole of the parts, but this time the parts were greater than just the car altogether. It was about pivoting, being crafty, but more importantly, the system you described. Okay, we're going to take a photograph, grab different angles. We're going to put it into a bag with a part number. That sort of system, that organization often goes overlooked by a lot of other businesses. They just get into it and then they realize later, oh, it's a mess. What have you learned from your experiences through just systematizing processes, being organized, automation, just kind of that whole area?
Sure. I'm messing about with automation a lot at the minute, AI automation and NA10 and that sort of thing. And for me, it's definitely a lesson, although I was a warehouse manager before, which is why I knew how to build all these systems for like inventory management and this sort of thing. But for me personally, I'm going through that at the minute. Again, I'm relearning systems because my business has got to the point where we've just gone from me being a freelancer to this is now a business, and we have other actors and we have other writers and we have projects coming through the business that I haven't touched. It went all the way by itself. The system is working. We are scalable at last. Finally, we have solved the scaling issue. It took me 2 years to figure out how to scale. And now we've got to the point we need to write this down. We need SOPs and we need to systematize this and we need to have different triggers and different passover points. And it's the same principle, the same idea of everything creates an action point and every action point has an outcome-oriented SOP so that anyone that gets stuck, for example, key members off in next week for 2 weeks, but it should be okay because we have SOPs in place so we can look at whatever it was that they were doing. And it's just relearning those processes in a slightly different setting. But now that once you've learned the lesson earlier on, if we systematize everything and standardize everything, it becomes very much smoother. And something I help creative freelancers with a lot is like, you need to somewhat standardize what you're selling, even though it's a creative thing, you need to somehow package it. And if you're struggling with a particular market you're in, you hit a key thing earlier, which is the sum is always worth more than the components, except for used cars. And if you're a creative freelancer and you're struggling because you just do this one part, well, go and work with other freelancers for the part after and the part before, because now you have a whole product that you can sell to a business. And so you sell that whole product to the business, and then you buy the individual parts, and then you're profiting off of each part. And you're also enabling other people to get more work, which is wonderful. You're helping out both ends.
Absolutely. I love that story because it highlights both that you took the previous experience and with the changes in technology and software, you had to kind of relearn things or redo your process, but you were still taking all the stepping stones, all the foundational knowledge that you already had, and you had to learn something new, but you built something even better. I think it highlights for us as entrepreneurs, just always have that, always be learning mindset. The moment you stop learning this, that's when you stop growing and you stop improving. But then you were able to create scalability from your product and your service. That's a huge next step, is kind of removing the bottlenecks within your business. How do I take that to the next step, the scaling part?
That was a massive one for me, trying to figure out as a YouTube. I mean, it's a little bit more complex now, but imagine you're a YouTube presenter. You've got this really valuable product, but this is not, like, you can look at it that way. This is not an executable business. You don't have a business, you have a job. We need to make this transition. How do I scale as a video presenter and an actor?
You're literally just trading your time. That's not scalable.
What you've done is you've increased the value of your time. And this is a fantastic journey. It's a great part of things. It's not a bad thing at all, trading time for money, until you hit a certain threshold and you get stuck. And I think it's Robert Kiyosaki lays it out really nicely with the quadrants, where you have employee, self-employed, business owner, and then investor. And it's a case of you start off working for someone else and they're exchanging time for money. Then you go from there to freelancer. And if you take the typical journey that most of us have, this is where you go. And then the next step is freelancer. Now you're trading your time for money directly. You have productized your time and you are getting a lot more for it because you're also assuming the risk. Because that's how everything works in business. It's just risk management, essentially. But then you hit a threshold, like you are still trading your time for money, even though you have a lot more control over everything and you're getting a lot more for your time because you now keep all the profit margins in between. And then the hardest step, at least of what I think, is going from there to being a business owner where you own the systems that operate with other people in them that make you money. If you asked me before, I would have told you the most difficult part is going from employed to self-employed. But now I've done that, I am sure in another couple of years when I'm the investor, the hardest part is going from business owner to investor.
But it's true. I think it highlights just that, again, you're expanding on your own knowledge. Questions you would have asked yourself years ago would change because you have new information, new experiences that have evolved and shaped you. But all of that helps build upon what you've done. Again, it's always be learning. If you could go back in time to give yourself one piece of advice, what would that be?
That's a tough one. It would have been one of two things. It would have either been start reading sooner, because I didn't really get into reading until I was an adult, because I thought personal growth books and self-development books and nonfiction books were cringe. It's like, my interpretation of personal development books were cringy 80s sitcom. When you see them on the sitcoms and the old TV shows, where you learn French while you're asleep sort of thing. So that's fine. Number one, start reading. Just start absorbing knowledge. And the other one that I might go with is don't ever get a job. Just be hungry.
Hunger is something that really motivates us. That was kind of what took me away from the corporate 9 to 5. I thought I had it all. It was something that I was proud to share with people. And I thought I was making okay money. But at the end of the year, I only had $500 left in my bank account. Thankfully, I had something. Most people are just paycheck to paycheck. But I was like, is this what the next year is going to be like?
You're taught over and over again. It's drummed into you over and over again. Get a 9 to 5, council job, big company, you're secure. You need that security. If you go out and you're a freelancer, you have no security. You have no guarantee of paycheck. And I'm like, no, that is complete and utter hogswash. That is completely back to front. If you have a job, no matter how well contracted it is, even if it's in Europe where you have all of these employees, you go into work tomorrow, you piss off one person, you no longer have a job and you no longer have a paycheck. And you're probably already living paycheck to paycheck because your wages do not increase at the same rate as everything else, to the point where it makes sense to change jobs every 2 years. I don't know why we can't retain staff. And it's like, you're offering the new position at a much higher rate than you're offering your existing. How does that make sense? What about freelance then? But you might not get any work. It's like, no, look, for me to go from what I have to zero, which is the same as losing your job, in a matter of an hour, you can go from what you have to zero. For a freelancer to go from what they have to zero, they'd have to piss off at least 25 people consecutively. At the same time, you'd somehow have to piss off 25 people. At worst, you lose 1, maybe 2 clients. Cool. You just adapt, move on. Don't go out for dinner that month, whatever. But it's wild how everyone's like, oh, get a job because it's secure. Have you stepped back and looked at this situation?
Gestures around. Have you seen what's going on? And I know people perceive security in different ways, but I always felt like I would rather make the risk and the bet on myself. I'd rather bet on myself than another company. And sure, there's benefits to it, but I don't know. I just feel like more in control. That's more secure for me. And the risk aversion, like you said, you have to really piss off a lot more people to really do that poorly because there's always more customers available to you as well.
Yeah. If anything goes wrong and you're in a freelance situation, you just got to go hustle. We've all been there. This is a bad month. Oh God, there's bills coming. Okay. What you do? You go pick up the phone, you start emailing. The earnest is on you. The ball is in your court. You are empowered to win or to fail. It is up to you what happens. But the responsibility of that decision and that inertia and that momentum is also yours. Whereas I think when you have a job, all of that responsibility is offloaded, which is what makes people feel secure.
I completely agree. Now, what are you looking forward to most to wrap up 2025? At the time of recording, we're about halfway through 25. Do you have any new product launches or services or ways that you're going to be pivoting that you're excited to get into?
Loads. We have so much going on at the minute. We're focusing on 1 or 2 products, one of which is a ad creative package, which we've put together. We have tested it with a few clients and it's very well received. It's very uniquely situated. It's in like a barren no man's land price point wise. We really don't have any competition. The whole idea of positioning yourself in a market of one, we've got that nailed. The actual value of what we're offering is fantastic, but we still have good margins. That's working really well for us. And we've got to the point where the process is now all SOP'd. We now have a process for the whole thing, and we're experimenting running ads and trying to optimize our ad campaign. That we have this position now where we have ads that are working, we have a landing page that's working, we have a funnel that's working, and we have almost the whole system built. And I am just waiting for those last 1 or 2 pieces to click into place so we can just pull the lever and then watch how fast this bad boy can go. And that's going to be our big win for this year, is getting that going and really scaling on a bigger level.
That is so exciting. That is really all coming together, and really excited to see those final pieces come together. A lot of what we do in business is just test and trial and error, and you tweak some things, you pivot, you make changes, and then you just scale and grow from there, which is very exciting. Where can people find and connect with you online?
If you want to follow me for help with working as a creative freelancer and getting more business and how to interact with clients and how to package and position yourself, just check me out on social media. Andy Kraken Media on most places. And if you want to work with us, it's just kraken.media. Give us a shout.
I love it. We have one final question. I'm curious to know. It's about failure. What are other businesses doing wrong that is preventing them from succeeding?
Not failing enough. Fail hard, fail forwards. Had this
Very well
conversation
said.
with who's just making the transition, and my biggest philosophy is you're going to fail. 9 out of 10 businesses fail. Okay, hurry up and fail 9. Every time you fail, it's one step closer. It shouldn't, people fail once, twice. I tried, it wasn't for me. I tried, I failed. Just keep failing. That's how you learn the lessons, and that's how you get there. If there's one lesson I have for anyone about failure, it's you are not failing enough. When you fail, you should do it with a big ass smile on your face because it's one step closer, and you should be looking for your next failure. What can I go and try next that I'm not 100% sure will work? Because that's the learning space. If it's going to work, you're not progressing. You need to be pushing your boundaries, and that's where failure is. It's the golden zone.
Andy, very well said. We appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your journey with us and all your tips and tricks. Make sure for our audience there to check out the show notes and the description so you can find the links to get connected with Andy here. We appreciate it. Congratulations on all your success and your future endeavors as well.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you for having me.